Hey everyone, NTEX here at the Halo Academy, and welcome to the very first episode of a new series called Know Your Weapon, where I'll be talking about all the weapons in Halo 4 and how to most effectively use them in your battles so that you become a much better player. Now today's topic is the plasma pistol, which is a great secondary weapon that requires a decent amount of strategy to use effectively, so I'll be teaching you these things today. Now it has two modes of fire. The first is a semi-automatic bolt, and the second is an overcharge shot. Each semi-automatic bolt takes 2% of your ammo counter, as you can see up there, 55, 53, 51, and so on. Releasing your overcharge takes 20% of your ammo, so that's pretty significant. So a brand new plasma pistol at 100% is only really 5 overcharges, and that's really not that many, so keep that in mind when you're using this gun. Now, when you hold the overcharge, it actually takes more ammo from you. I have to take a new one from this guy, sorry. Yeah, so when you hold the overcharge, as you can see here, each second that I hold it down takes about 10% of my ammo. And when I release it, it's another 20% from what I said before. So just from that short amount of time, I'm already down to 30%. And that can't do much more in terms of the overcharge. I'm almost out when I use it right now. So always remember that your plasma pistol has only approximately 5 maximum overcharge shots. Alright, so now that we covered the modes of fire and the ammo, I'll talk about what range to use it at, really briefly. I would say that you kind of have to get up in this guy's face, up in the grill, really close combat. That's when it's best, and that's when you'll see it used most. The bolt and the homing and the overcharge bolt can be shot at a distance. I would say this is like mid-range. It's still pretty effective here because of the homing ability of the shots. So mid-range to close range, pretty darn good, still usable. If you're like all the way back here, and the guy's like not standing still, right? He's probably going to be jumping around. Not a great idea to use the plasma pistol unless you really can land your shots, because the accuracy is just too low from far distances. So keep it close to mid-range, right? Cool. So now I'm going to start talking about how to kill your opponent quickly with this weapon. And trust me, you can kill really quickly with this gun. The first method is a combination of the overcharge followed by a really quick melee. Right here, I'll show you. Okay, I messed up. Oh gosh. Okay. Sorry. Let's try that again. Overcharge, melee. There we go. So that's pretty darn fast, almost instantaneous, which is why so many people use it. I would say 99% of people use the plasma pistol for this combo because it is a close combat solution. If this guy is like turning the corner or he's like charging you, it's really easy to just do this combo. Now there is something that I want to mention with this method. If you are too close to the guy, like I'd say from here to here, you take pretty significant splash damage from your own bullet. See, if I'm too close, I take damage, and so does he. I don't take as much as him, but I'm still like pretty weak after that. And that leaves me pretty vulnerable. If I'm over here, I don't take as much, but I still take some. Well, that's actually about the same. But so I think when you release it over here, it's pretty darn safe. You don't have splash damage back here. But if you're too close, you become pretty vulnerable to attack. And it can be an attack from this guy. As you can see here, all it takes is one melee to take you out, even though you're the one that's attacking him. And another thing is, if you have teammates shooting you, all it takes is one body shot and one headshot to finish you off. So you won't last much longer. So always keep in mind that your shields are going to be pretty much down if you did this technique. So either release it a little bit in front of the opponent, so like over here, and then go in for the melee, or just make sure that you find cover afterwards to recharge your shields. Alright, so that's technique number 1, the Overcharge Melee combination. Now, number 2 is very similar, but it doesn't involve the overcharge shot, so you don't have that vulnerability when your gun's cooling down, and you also won't suffer splash damage from this. It's involving the single shots. As you can see here, all it takes is 3 shots and a melee to kill the opponent, fully shielded. So this has advantages because you don't have the splash damage, you don't have the cooldown, and the bullets travel pretty fast and pretty quickly at a medium to close range. So you can actually implement this really effectively in a variety of different situations. Now, the easiest kill you can get with it is if you charge the guy, like let's say you're going in a straight line, and then you fire the 3, and then you get right up there to do the melee at the end. That's pretty good because you kind of come from a distance, but you close the distance to land that melee. Alright, so you might be wondering, can I just use the plasma pistol without a melee or another weapon to help me out? And the answer is yes, but I would not recommend it because it takes a total of 12 single shots to kill a fully shielded opponent. And the rate of fire is pretty fast, but if the guy's moving around, you won't be landing all those shots. So it might take you 24 shots to actually land the 12. And by some miracle, if you're still alive by then, which I think is pretty unlikely, you might be able to finish him off. So as you can see, it takes 4 to down the shield, and then another 8 to kill the guy. Now, if I do full rate of fire, it seems pretty fast, but once again, if the guy's moving around, you're not going to be landing all those shots. So unless you're out of ammo and you have nothing else left to do, but for some reason the single shots of the plasma pistol, use it because you really got nothing else. But if you have something else, please don't use it. It's probably not the fastest way to kill. Now, I'll go over the third thing you can do. It's called the Noob Combo sometimes, because in Halo 2, this combo is used with the battle rifle a lot, and people started calling it the Noob Combo because the homing ability on the overcharge shot was just so darn good, and you'd be able to get kills left and right. Now, the homing ability in Halo 4 is, of course, decreased to make it more balanced, but this is still a really good technique. So all you have to do is overcharge your shot, land it, and then switch to another weapon and headshot him, and that's a kill. Now, your other weapon has to be a headshot-capable weapon. The plasma pistol is not a headshot-capable weapon. If I shoot his head, it doesn't register as a headshot. It just does damage. It's the same on the foot, on the head, wherever. But if you have the DMR, it registers as a headshot. So don't use the plasma pistol for headshots because I guarantee you it won't work. Please have another weapon with you that can do a headshot, and that can be like the Covenant Carbine, the DMR, the Battle Rifle, the Magnum, even the Bolt Shot, and just anything that's not this. And I assume that most players have one handy, so you don't have to worry about that. But this is a really fast kill and pretty good at mid-ranges. So once again, I'll do it. Land that, headshot, gone. So you'll see a lot of people using this too, especially on the bigger maps. The last thing I want to cover is its effectiveness against vehicles. So let's get this guy inside the ghost I have set up right here. And this is kind of like a classic feature of the plasma pistol. It can actually disable vehicles for 2 seconds if you shoot it with an overcharge. See, the ghost kind of just stops floating and just kind of chills there. And during this time, the vehicle's pilot cannot move or shoot, so he's pretty vulnerable unless he gets out of the vehicle, which also takes some time for him, so you're at the advantage in this kind of situation. What I recommend you doing is helping your team by disabling just big vehicles, especially on big team battle maps that have like mantises, banshees, hogs, scorpions, all that big stuff. Disabling it really helps because you can focus fire on the pilot or focus fire on the vehicle itself. just do whatever you need to do to get him off that vehicle. So let's say like for some reason on Abandon there's a ghost like just flying around and there's this guy and then I disable him. The best thing you can do, since it's such a close combat scenario, is stun it, hit him once, and then hijack. Your first hit will disable his shields, and your second one will kill him. Because the hijack does do damage because the animation does show you hitting the guy, and he gets hurt too, so you're essentially hitting him twice. That's a really quick way to do it. But if you're too far away and you can't sprint there in time, not a good idea. So if you're like all the way back here, and you really have to make an effort to get there, I would say hijacking is good enough, because you don't have time for that melee. So I'll show that once again in case you didn't catch it. All I had to do was do a melee from the outside and then climb aboard to hijack it. So I'll do that one more time. Disable, outside melee. Okay, I messed up. Let's try that again. This doesn't have enough. Alright. Disable, one melee, then hijack. And you should be golden after that. So the plasma pistol, pretty deadly against vehicles if you know what you're doing. So yeah, that's pretty important for those vehicle intensive maps like Ragnarok, Exile, all those big team battle, and even Complex has two ghosts that tend to be used every now and then. So you can use the plasma pistol against it. Remember, it's only the overcharge. The single shot's not as effective, does not have the disabling ability like the overcharge does. Alright, so that pretty much wraps up all of the things that you'll see with the plasma pistol and how you should use this gun. And I'll just really quick cover these three things again, involving Team Slayer stuff and then also the vehicle thing. So the first thing I went over was this, Overcharge Melee. That, pretty fast. You can do that like point blank. Watch out for the splash damage. The second technique, 3 shots and a melee. Pretty fast too. No splash damage, no cooldown on the overcharge because you're not using it. The third way is the overcharge headshot combo. Overcharge, switch to the other weapon, headshot, done deal. And once again, that can be used for any headshot capable weapon like a Magnum or a BR. And the last thing is the vehicle disable. So if there's a guy in a vehicle and you're close enough, land that overcharge, melee him from the outside, climb in, kill right there, and a free ghost for you to have a joyride in. So that just about wraps up this tutorial video covering the plasma pistol and the first episode of Know Your Weapon. Thank you so much for watching this and your support. I really appreciate it. Please subscribe to this channel, The Halo Academy, and look for more content coming up really soon. Gameplay commentaries, tips on maps, tricks, and of course, episode number 2 of Know Your Weapon, which will be coming up. I'll be talking about the bolt shot. And yeah, thank you so much for your time, and I really hope you learned something today. Peace.